Hello, darlings, and hello, friends. Welcome to the Artist Within podcast. I am super, super excited for this episode in so many different shapes and forms. It's a little bit different than the usual spots. We're not doing it on my usual day, so bear with me if my mind is a little bit of off the track at some points here and there, but that's okay. This is why it's so fun for me now. I am really excited to introduce to you guys our next guest, who is not only somebody who I personally know, and I don't know personally, but I know her personally enough to know the human and the kindness of her heart. What I also know is that this human is a powerhouse. She is a powerhouse, not only in her own personal life, but in our community, in our city. She is one of our city producers for the LOL Film Festival. Love our locals, laughing out loud for our films and what we're doing. And I have been a part of seeing this journey and seeing this human grow in a way that I look at it, I go, okay, like I am a couple of steps behind. I know what I gotta do. I know how hard I have to reach, because there is no complaints. There is nothing but kindness and goodness in every shape or form when you see her. So without further ado, and she will introduce herself way better than I do as usual for my guests, but here we go. Let me introduce you guys. Ready? It's Monique Madrid. Give me a second and let me get you guys on. Here she is. Monique, welcome to the Artist Within podcast. I appreciate you so much for being here. Please take a moment to introduce yourself way better than I just did, because there are so many more accomplishments to you and what you do. I just know you for the human and love you for the human. So take it away for a second for me, please.
Oh man, I think you did good. I think you did wonderful. So Monique Madrid, LOL Jack's Film Festival creator and sole owner, sole film festival director of that. And I have Jen Weeks with me that is the honorary host every year. And then I co-city produce with my husband Adam Madrid the 48-hour film project for Jacksonville. And I just try to be a big fan of anybody in the community. I dabble a little behind the camera. My husband's teaching me that, so that's been fun. I've produced a little, but I just love being in the community as a big fan and seeing how it's growing and being in the know of all the goodness and rooting people on and helping any way I can to the best of my ability with what they want.
Oh, I love it. I love you. I love it. So let's get a little personal. You and I met, I don't even know how many years ago now. It feels like
It's some
yesterday,
years.
but it's been some
It's been
years
some
now,
years.
right? It's been
Yeah.
some years. And to be honest, I don't necessarily remember how we met in person or how like that happened. But I do know that I was a fan prior to you, as because I started out as a makeup artist just in the back scenes before I ever got into your world at all. And just hearing your name, hearing, Monique and Adam were the people to know Monique. And I was like, who is this Monique? And I do remember when I met you, just again, being like just enamored by you and your whole essence, and being like, oh my goodness, and you guys, just so you know, for someone so tiny, and she is a tiny human being, her power is like, and I tower, okay?
Yeah.
Like I'll put on my 10-inch heels and I tower, and my power is like raw too, but when I'm in her presence, it just like it goes down like this in such a like humbling and blessed way, and I love it. And I remember that feel like when I don't remember the surroundings or where was it, but I just remember that feeling of being like, this is a very caring being, somebody who loves art, somebody who loves telling stories, creating, being an influence in this world, and just creating a pathway of goodness. Like, and I know that's, but goodness is about you, and I think that enforces into everything and every challenge you've had to beat into that. You've done it with like the goodness of your heart. So my question to you is, how do you believe that art influences our understanding of our human existence, and how does it contribute to our overall health as an individual, and then of course like as a society or community? And if you could give me your perspective on if you have a story to share or something like that, that shares an example of that.
Yeah, no worries. So, two things about me. I'm a Taurus, and a Taurus, we're big into music. We love music, and that's an art form in itself. And that's my first love. My husband, film is his first love. Like I love film too, but I was always like, I love the soundtracks. I always love listening to music and dissecting on why it was meant for the scene. So I love the film world, but from a different angle. It was
Oh,
from
I
that music
love
angle.
that.
Yeah, so that was me. And eons ago, we used to DJ. I used to be a DJ to help pay for college. So I DJ for like 12 years, weddings and corporate events and things like that. And it's actually some of the people in the film community, when they would do wedding gigs, filming, me and Adam would be their DJ.
There we
So
go.
it's that was kind of a little bit of touch into the community. But the other part about me is I went to college, UNF, Swoop Life. So shout out to them. But I studied sociology, and so it was studying people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed about studying people is sometimes, words get lost, and sometimes it's hard to articulate how we're feeling. And so a lot of people bite their tongue. A lot of people hold back. A lot of people hold things within, which could affect your mental health, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I noticed that sometimes, because even I found myself like sometimes the music would say things so different, like, man, the
Mm.
way, that one song and he sang about love, that's it. That's how I feel, Adam. That's how I feel about you. Or, or this song, you're like, that's how I feel about my best friend. Or, yo, this song reminds me of my parent. Like it speaks. And the same thing with film and art. It speaks to us, So sometimes it's easy. And like I was talking to someone the other day and we were comparing a TV show and they're like, I was seeing this one character and it reminds me of you. And I felt I learned a little bit more about you through this character. So I feel like art sometimes will open up these aha moments for us to
Mm-hmm.
feel a deeper connection with other people, which is speaking and storytelling. Especially nowadays, people are really, don't get me wrong, Lord of the Rings is amazing. Star Trek is great, but these stories of ordinary people, the reason why they feel so real is because they're based off real people. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you cider on people and how they feel. So I feel like arts is just this another way to connect to each other, another way to feel, and another way to pause conversation. You know what I mean? Like even like films that talk about different cultures. It's like, I didn't know that about your culture. Tell me more. And then there's this conversation, this dialogue that occurs. And I think it makes it easier. It breaks the ice because sometimes people don't want to pull the band-aid off and say the
Mm-hmm.
things they need to say in fear that it'll be taken out of context. And I feel like film and music does that in a
Mm-hmm.
way that I think goes beyond how we can do it without offending one another. And so I love it. I feel that it's needed, and I feel like art just again is one way to connect the world and kind of interweave those pieces where we left gaps of why we're not connecting with one another.
So I want to ask you about that. First of all, beautiful answer. But second of all, I am 100%. And so this is why I think I know you and I completely could. It's because it's the music, right? I love the film world. Like,
Yes.
do I love the film world? I do. I do. I do. I do. It's fantastic. And I'm great at doing what I'm doing in that, like, whatever. But it's the music. Like, I have tattoos, like, dedicated to music. Literally, like, right. You too. Like, both of us. Like, my stem here to my brain is a microphone to music, like in the
Yes.
crescendo,
Yes.
right? And so in last night you got the beautiful experience. If you haven't yet, this is a recommendation to you and Adam to do a date night, but the candlelit dinners, or the candlelight, or I went last night. Okay, the string quartet. Okay, first of all, we have somebody that's from Jacksonville doing it here, so I'm reaching out because like that's a fellow artist right there. Like I can't, right? That whole second of all, I don't think anyone else experienced it the way I experienced it last night because I sat in that music. I cried, the intense, the oh my god, the I didn't realize I needed to process some emotions and what I needed to do. The music is a for like, and it doesn't need to have words. I think that's why it's so beautiful because it connects in a way that attunes the whole being together, right? It auditory, and it creates this visual experience, and then it wants you to move, and then it wants you to just put forth something that is being stirred inside you, and you may not even have the words for it. And like, that's how Project Human came about. That's how music saved my life. If it wasn't for a rap song, literally, and if it wasn't for the lyrics in that, it was like, walk a mile with you. Have you been in this? Have you done this? Did you do this? And it's like, no, you didn't. I did. You're right. And sometimes I looked at it for a long time. Music was my scripture. Okay, so I couldn't even maybe connect to God in a way that I wanted to, or connect to where I needed to. And music was, I've always said it, music was God's way of sending me words, things that I didn't understand, or meanings that I needed to hear, or some ways that I needed to process things that just were not within me, that I couldn't read, that I couldn't go and hear from someone else. But that tune, that moment, that one string, that one beat, right? That one, like, right. That
let that string breathe,
bro,
baby.
girl, he was breaking them strings last night. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, that idea of music being, I think, is the key to everything that we do. That, again, we can't make a film without the music, right? We can't make we can't make a video of something without that frequency. And so I think with what you do, and how important with a lot, especially when you involved in the film festival and involved like in that, where you're coming from, pushes a lot of our artists to create something more, you know, again, that pushes that feeling, that connection, that's not just a visual one that goes, oh, I can see it, that's great film. That's, again, like you said, no offense to Lord of the Rings, no offense to anything else that's great out there visually and stuff. But when that music is there, and you can listen and you can get into it without watching the movie, and being there and experience everything that they wanted to create, that feeling, that's magic, that's power, that's creation. Yeah. So what's your favorite song? And what is your maybe 2-3 songs that you're like, these are my scripture songs, as I would call, like, I have a list of them, it's literally in my thing, and I'm like, these are my ones that I go to, and they're eclectic, okay, let's be real, but you know, there's some couples. So what's your 1 or 2 or 3?
Oh, so I love all kinds of music, and that's just like saying which is your favorite child. I will say this. So how I describe it is, it depends on what I need. Mm-hmm. So, like, for instance, weirdly enough, if I am, you know, people stressing me out, make me want to just act out of character. And normally, to my core, I'm a kind human, but you know, they don't push the right button. I do need some good gospel. Yolanda Adams is an amazing artist. Danny Goki is an amazing artist. Some Kirk Franklin any day of the week. That would be my vibe. If I am, you know, need to pick me up, you know, just run a little slow, just need some energy. Give me some good Missy Elliott. You know,
girl.
I lived in VA. I lived in Virginia at that time of that sound. So give me some Pharrell, give me some Timbaland, give me some Missy Elliott. And if I am just wanting to feel the love vibes, and just kind of just be in that mood, I'm finding that, you know, give me a little Bruno Mars. You know, give me a little Sade, Karine Bellamy. I love her. Give me some Amy Winehouse, some Selena, and I'm set. And so I have different moods for different things. And then another thing I've been doing, whenever I really travel somewhere, I will literally listen to the music that's in the Uber ride, listen to the music that's in the metro, in the restaurants, and I Shazam them. If
you like it, so you can, like,
yeah,
because I like it, I want to,
and I get the vibe. So whenever I want to feel like I'm back in that particular country or that city in the US, I will play that song again, and it gives me all those feels and almost jokingly the smells and the memories, all of that.
Because it infuses into the cells. Because it infuses into the cells. Like, every music really has, and again, I'm not a scientist. We're not a scientist podcast, not professional medicals. It's all in all our sets. But there is studies. There's plenty of studies you can go and check out that say frequency, music, sound is literally like the healing. And when you connect it with all the elements of earth, water, and wind and fire in your environment, in your space, and you add that frequency, you're literally, every sense of your being is being molecularly changed, literally on every individual cellular level. And we know cells are alive, and we know that they have memory, and we know that all of these things. So why would they not have that memory for the experience of something so wonderful, right? I think we as human beings focus so much on the negative of that experience and infuse ourselves with that versus really work, because it takes a little more concentration. It takes a little more, I mean, not for me, it's a lot easier for me now because I'm just all about the feel goods, but it does take a little bit more concentration where you're like, I'm so used to chaos, or I'm so used to whatever tragedy may be going on or trauma might be going on in my life, that it's easier to be in that discomfort place because you know how to function there. And how do you function in peace, and how do you function in the ability to create something that now you don't have to put blame on anything else. And I think music has a way of being able to connect you to, again, a lot of emotions, make you face a lot of things. And then you add the visuals, you add everything else to it. And if you're a conscious being and want to be a conscious being, you can use the creative arts to literally heal yourself and to process and introspect and create a pathway for you that's right for you, versus, again, what the narrative might be or what any other narrative is. Like, what is your narrative? What's the artist within you trying to find and doing that? And I think that's fantastic. So asking you now onto that is, how did your artist within find yourself into now being the city producer of our film festival, LOL Film Festival, right? Owning it, creating this, being the woman who owns it, being somebody who is standing, right? Yes, we have Adam, your associate and all that, but like for me too, that's a key, huge accomplishment that, again, you're the one kicking ass in this and doing that. Kudos, Adam. Great job, Adam. And thank you for the support. But girl, how did you come up with this idea? And listen, I say this to my husband too. Like, I love you. All that. Thank you for because we need that. We need that structural support. They're our backbone. Like, they are our everything. But some of these ideas and these become from just, again, the soul and the heart and the passion, and not necessarily this structure that our men are, right? Like, that this logic stuff, sometimes it just comes from feeling. And from what share your story on that, because I've heard it from different angles, and I'd love to hear it from just your personal perspective of that.
Yeah, so one, me and Adam have known each other since we were 16 years old, and we're only 25, jokingly, but you know what I'm saying. So, but we've known each other for a very long time, very, 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 very long time, and so, we will always support each other. We started out as friends, and so, fast forward and we're married, and the one thing that I wanted, and this makes sense too in a minute, the one thing that that we had in common is we were hustlers, in the sense of, we didn't want to depend on our parents in a good way. We wanted our parents to felt like they've raised us well, and that we can thrive as young adults, because we married very, very young. And so we always had that with us. Like, we always kept a couple jobs under the belt, and that's something that resonates in the film community. And then in regard to just our identities, we loved being known as Adam and Monique, and now married the Madrids, but we also really made sure that it was also Monique, Adam, not just the Madrid. So we had no problem with being a power couple, as people say. We didn't mind being linked together, but we also strove to have individual parallel lives. And so we started an endeavor together, A&M Productions, and that's when we DJ'd together. And so it got me through college, got me through some of the early years of our marriage. And then we had to kind of stop that because Adam was shifting into the film realm, which was something that has always been his love, because I told you he's the film guy. So watching that go, and then seeing him, get gigs that were like, really iconic for him, working with the Jaguars, working for PRI Productions. These are, great legs and success in his eye. And so we had to kind of put that in the back burner. And so I was kind of like, all right, so what do I got going on? Because that was my success story, in the sense I really love DJing and watching brides be, to this day I still talk to those clients So I wanted to fit in his world because we were doing a lot and I was doing a lot to help support that, whether it's be on set, help him, or just go to the film events and love on him. And in return, I was also loving on the filmmakers. I not only was going to support him, but I was watching these filmmakers year after year grow. And that was at the 48-hour film project. And I'm watching them grow. And I see that. I sorry, that's my puppy in the background.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay.
I see that he's doing his thing and he's growing, and I see these other filmmakers growing too. And I'm just the type of girl that if I want to make a compliment, I don't fear it, and so I always compliment filmmakers on what what was great about their film. And so then I started catching the bug of I really like this community, not just from being on my husband's sets. Not that that isn't great too, and I do love it, but I wanted something for me because it just felt like I was coming as Adam's wife, and that's the part
Mm-hmm.
where because again, I'm so used to us just being, Adam one way, Monique one way, and then the Madrids. And so when I find myself being Adam's wife. Not that I'm not happy for that title, but
We love
Adam
those
calls me
titles.
Adam's wife.
Right.
Right. Adam
That's
can call me
reserved for
Adam's wife.
that. For the rest of it, we have an
Yeah.
identity. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to find an authentic identity. And I was at Richard Kodai's Jacksonville film showcase. And I was in the back of the theater and I said, I really think I would like to do festival running. I want to do a comedy film festival. And he thought it over and, it took him overnight, but he woke up and he was fully on board and he's never hesitated since. He hesitated that night. And when I talked to him about it, because when he hesitated, I was like, you know what, that he's right. It doesn't make sense. I don't even know what I'm doing. And I just kind of woke up thinking, yeah, that was a little just knee jerk reaction of having a good night, and now the reality,
Sets
is
in,
in
right?
play.
Don't we, really quick
But
to
this is
ask you, do
yeah,
we,
go
just
ahead.
not to interrupt, but don't we, is this, but in that instant, as it being like, how quickly is it that we can, especially because those who we love, like, how we can go and be like, that, yeah, you're right, that was a stupid idea. What was I thinking? Like, it's okay. It's again, not that they don't love us, not that it's not any of that. And that could be anybody in any situation. Oh, you can put your puppy on. I see him. I feel you love. He's loving you.
I'm
This
like
is part of
low
it.
key,
I
like
know. I'm
here's a
like, no,
bone,
girl,
here's a
no, girl.
bone.
He's like, I have mine too. We'll do the same thing. No, no. Because like, how do you, if he did not change his mind, right? Like, I wanted to ask you on that, like, or if he was, how would you have found, because I believe to the core this was you, again, this is your identity too, like, you love this, you have done so much and so great for this, but had he not come around as fast or whatever, do you think, and how do you think you would have gotten to here and now, like, on your own on that? Not that you can convince him, not that, right, like, but I'm asking because that's a very, I think it's
Oh,
hard
a
for
good question.
people, for us to, like, it's a great story to be like, oh yeah, they came on board and here we go, we have that teammate. But sometimes there is that moment where you really have to work hard to kind of prove yourself, especially, and I say this no offense, but especially as a woman coming into worlds and into places. And on top of that, into these other places as a woman of color, how, like, just so many different things to come in against. And then that support system, again, not that they don't love us, but that knee-jerk reaction, how it can instantly defeat that bubble of passion or something, that, like, almost delusion of something that could happen. And I always say delusion is, it's only delusion until it's reality, and you were delusional to think it happened, and look at the reality, right? So right. And so tell me about, like, what do you think that would have been like, or how do you think, I'm really curious.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a hustler in the sense of I have to have something extra besides my normal 9 to 5, right? And so I've done different things. I have, when I was a kid, I was a candy lady, I was a DJ, and then here I am thinking I could be a film festival. I'm a very, again, I'm a Taurus, so I like stability and I'm very practical. But there's also this other side to a Taurus where they don't mind taking challenges on and trying new things that are interesting. And so that felt okay for me. But if I didn't do it, I probably would have I probably would have been okay at first, but then I probably would have been itchy and trying to figure out, okay, if it's not this, what is it? Because I
Hmm.
really did want to do something in the film world. But I didn't want to sit there and say, I'm a director or I'm a cinematographer or, like I'm an actress now. Like I just knew that wasn't for me necessarily. And then like I didn't want to be disrespectful to the craft because I see the players and I see even if they're a newbie, they're working their asses off
Right.
to like really, they're really doing the steps to learn. And I didn't, and at first that part felt like a hobby, but I wanted something that felt like this is a journey. So I probably maybe would have leaned my hat towards just like really getting extra serious about producing short films and film world because I did do that too. So I probably would have leaned into that instead. But I'm grateful for this. And the one thing that I like is when I set my mind to something and I say, I want to do that. And I mean, I have to really convince myself too. If I'm really convinced and my family around me, they know me best. And so if they're like, no, you can do this. Because they'll look at me and they'll be like, girl, no, you can't. And I mean, they mean it with all the
Right.
sincerity in the
But
world
it's
because they
honest
know me, because I do that
accountability and
too.
responsibility. It's accountability and
Yeah.
responsibility. We need those. We need people to hold us
Yeah. Don't
where.
have me jump off this cliff with no
Go with
parachute now.
thank you or ropes or stuff just
Yeah.
because I feel like bungee jumping today. Like my feelings are coming and going. So
Yeah.
like,
Did we check this backpack with this
like it might
parachute?
take
Did we
just a
know
little
it's
more
the part?
time. Right. Just
Yeah. Is there
that's
tape
the
on this
team.
plane?
Right,
Yeah. So
right.
I have a great tribe of family who love me and they know I support them super hard. And so they support me back realistically. And I give them free reign to tell me and keep me accountable in
Right.
honesty. And so when I got that green light, mind you, I didn't know how to do a festival. But I feel like the thing that worked best for me is my normal 9 to 5, having that corporate side to me. I knew how to be an organizer. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure I could be better at it and there's always room to grow, but like I had principles and then, I just do my research, and I really just try to do my best and gave it my all. And I had my husband to help me where those lanes I knew, and that's the thing too, I knew how to be realistic of what I can do
Mm-hmm.
and then stay in my lane and let my husband do what he can do. And I don't micromanage him. We have conversations. And so we have a very beautiful, and that's the thing. People
Partnership.
always wonder about us like, dang, do they be fighting when and
No.
it might be a little bit, but we're such friends to our core because that's how we started that we know how to take off that hat of honey
It's not
versus
personal.
and it's yeah, and so it's like when we need to switch that hat to be about business, we know how to do it, and then we don't drag it into the personal. If we had a conversation, and if let's say it was heated, I want to do it this way, I want to do it this way. We don't then turn it to bleed it over into our personal life. We'll put that on hold and go have dinner and talk about anything else, everything else, and then all right, come back to that when it's time to come back to that. So I had a really good partnership. I have a really good partner, and Tauruses don't trust easily. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very blessed to have a partner that I can trust in this process. And I think that helped for me.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I really am a spiritual human and I really believe God just had my back on this and had a higher
Mm-hmm.
purpose. Always operated on that. So that's what, and to answer that, I just got this aha too, because I will say this, I learned a long time ago, early in, especially when I was DJing, my purpose, my heartstring, my why is just being a servant, and in the sense of just I want to help people any way I can. I want to make people smile. I want to be that shoulder they can cry on. And so I did, like when I did that with DJing, even though we're playing music, when we have these meetings with the clients, they'll be telling me all the tea about, my mom and dad are mad that we're getting married, or me and my bridesmaid just got into it. And I'm literally counseling them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I would, do my little candy business, I'm counseling my friends, I'm teaching them how to be business owners. And like I just always wanted to do something to where I made somebody happy because that made
Mm-hmm.
me happy. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my why. And so if I didn't do the film festival, I would just have to search for that next great thing that would give me my why, which is make people happy. I know it sounds corny, but it really did. Like, honestly, don't get me wrong, they paid me for my DJing, but when a bride said, "Thank you, you made my day," or their family came up to me and said, I was having a bad week and I was on that dance floor having a good old time, that made my day. When you're there, like, you got my grandpa on the dance floor, that made my day. So hearing the little stories from LOL, and it's not to toot my horn, even though I hate
You
saying it because I
should.
feel people think that, but I love hearing those stories of like, yo, when I came to LOL, I met my partner that I collab with, and we started a business, and now we're shooting films,
It,
and we're getting paid for. I love hearing those stories
it's
because that's
Well, because here's where it comes down to. You were just talking about your aha moment. Like, for me, when I started Project Human and started this whole journey, I had no idea what I was doing. I knew my why. I knew I was a worker. Like, I used to say, I'm a worker and I work. Everybody's like, oh, Adela, you could be CEO, you could be a leader, you're a leader. I'm like, no, 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 I'm a worker. Like, yes, I am all of those things and my qualities, and they're great at that, and I am great at it, but I'm a worker. And as you go into your journey and art, I believe again, and I believe it teaches you so much if you're really willing to be introspective with it, and have this personal conversation with yourself, like really have this personal conversation. It can teach you and lead you to places and solidify your why. And as you said, servants, like, I truly believe every human being on this planet is here to serve each other, period. End of discussion. Serve this planet, serve this humanity, serve the goodness of who we are. And what we've done is serve it in a destructive way in so many shapes and form, whether to ourselves or to each other. But the true purpose of us is to serve in the greater purpose, the greatness of us. And I had this whole thing of like, never fear the truth, but always fear the lies. And the lies that we tell ourselves are the ones that create anxiety and create fear for everything else on there. Truth just creates a clear path for you. And when you're serving your truth, there is no fear in what you're doing. And for me, again, when I met you in that, I knew, and you just said it too, being in service to others. And for me, in doing this and the podcast and everything, I want to be the most influential human being, and not on the planet. I just want to be the most influential human through every conversation, because that's what I'm here to do. And if we can save a life through a conversation, through a connection, or through something we do, right, that goes deeper than what is so artificial to society. And like you said, the conversation with those humans, despite the purpose of being there, it goes deeper. And I just had one. We came to meet for talking about podcasts, talking about business. Nothing of that was talked about. I mean, it's very little, but what the purpose was for me to serve and coach and guide her through what she needed to be there for, and nothing to do with what the goal is of life, but it was her soul needing that. And art teaches, I think, us the ways to do that, and to find ways to communicate and educate people to do that as well, that we don't give enough credit. And I think this is your way of not only being creative, but also being able to really genuinely influence. And you should toot your own horn. Like, I'm tooting your horn as much as I potentially can, because to me, to do what you're doing, to do it for the goodness and the purpose of it, shows when people come. And when I show up and when I see in the opportunities you provide me and other artists, just to be there to showcase our works and our arts, because you feel good, and you feel like it's almost selfish to say that goodness feeds our soul, like that's our food. But I feel like last night I could have stayed in that string quartet in there. Like, I could have stayed for 7 hours and not moved, and I would have done just fine. Full when I walked out. Don't need to eat. Don't need to sleep. Don't need to do anything. Just full on this experience, right? That is the drug, man. And I think that when you can find that same feeling towards humanity and towards your purpose and yourself, right? It really creates for this beautiful flow and this beautiful community, which again, you and Adam all collaboratively did, but you, because of how you are, have done that way. And so you should be proud of yourself. You should give yourself credit for that. And you should absolutely toot your own horn, because, girl, toot, toot.
He's teaching me. He's such, I will say, like, Adam is a good cheerleader for me, because I like to just do the work. Like I understand a lot of the creatives in the community where they just kind of want to do the work and just do the thing. And I'm kind of like that too. I just want to do the thing. But Adam is so beautiful at no, you have to celebrate because it sounds like tooting your own horn, but he's like, no, you have to celebrate those victories. That's why you keep
The
going. That
accomplishments,
it energizes you.
yeah.
You have to stop and measure that level of success that you have, and then you reassess and you move forward. And so when he kind of taught me the beauty in it, I was trying to tell someone the other day, it's kind of like a resume, like when you write a resume, you have to put down the qualities of what make you a better candidate. Those are facts, just
Mm-hmm.
pure facts. But when you really think about it, it's a piece of paper that is tooting your horn on why you are the top candidate. And so if we can see a resume as just not just a basic thing and that's not pompous, then treat it like a resume when you want to toot your horn. Is it a fact that you are the first Black female in Jacksonville to do the film festival? Then toot that. So that's a
Yes.
fact. That's not boastful. It's a fact. Are you're at year 8 and it's just getting bigger and bigger, to that. That's a fact. So
You
it was like treat it like a resume. If you think of it like a resume, then it doesn't feel like you're
No,
I'm
it
all
does.
this,
It well, and it takes away the we think about it, and that's the thing I love about again these conversations we're having is we really get to define the narrative of what it means to be a egotistical narcissist, somebody who's just out there talking about how they are, who they are, versus somebody who's talking fact. And one of the things and again, that's the same thing when I go out and I talk in shapes and form and whatever, and people are like, oh, who's Adela? And this, and that. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, everything. My list and resume is long. I'm not sitting here doing that because I don't need to. Like, it's just, I'll show up. Tell me what job you need to do. I'll show up. If you need my resume, I'll send it over to you. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to talk about what my work is. Like, my work is my work. I'm doing it, it's getting done, and that's the fact. Like, your work is your work. You are the first Black female city producer here to produce a film festival, host it, own it, and make it successful, to get us to Cannes, to get us to other places, to get us to LA, to get us to all these accomplishments, to get sponsors, to get the community involved together. Yeah, girl, absolutely. That's a resume. You know why? Because now and again, if you said, if we were to ask you what the requirements are for somebody to apply for a job of something, why can't we apply for the job of ourselves? Being the best person for the job of ourselves. And that's why when we talk about taking out expectations, the word expectation is replaced in my narrative just because now it's a requirement. I have requirements for you to be a good human being. I have requirements for you to be honest. It's a job application for you to be in my 40 inches or my 6 feet, because we need to hold each other accountable, just like a job would hold us accountable, just like our parents would hold us accountable. We need to hold ourselves accountable for who we are and how we produce and what we produce, so that we can really separate the ego from coming in and putting humans down and putting humans and their quality of work down, or just boosting someone's head up, versus really speaking the facts. Like, here's the fact, it's proven, like, there's a track record, it's built, here's my tracks, the train's going, you can either jump on or not. Like, where is that? And so I think these are beautiful conversations to have and push them in. Can you share with me a personal challenge you've had in these 8 years of shifting into this role of producing and creating and bringing a city together, and your own moments of maybe personal self-doubt that you've had through it? For example, I just had my own. I had some of the projects we're working on, some of the things we're doing, and the amount of no's that which is, again, I understand, and I take them for opportunities on the hindsight 2020, yada, 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 but that we talk about the moment of the moment, and the moment can be so deflating, right? That moment can be so defeating, especially if you are, I like to call our alpha females, who like to, in our AA personalities, who are just like, we are A+ students, what can we do to improve? And it's like, not that we say, oh, they suck. It's like, but what can we do to improve? And when you improve and you improve and you improve and you still get no's, how do you get yourself? And again, for me, I figure out some of those things. It takes a minute. You cry through it, you talk yourself through it, and you continue and you move on to that. But how do you 8 years, you've been through it. I'm sure there's been moments where some of the things that you knew you were set so for, you guys were so great for, it was like a shoe in your head, and then it's a no, and it's a big fat no. What's been that transition for you, and does it get easier? Does it get easier for those
Um,
no's?
oof. So one of the biggest challenges I ever had with the LOL in particular was during the COVID years. And so, when the world, because Florida's crazy and they're gonna open up first, right? So when the world was starting to open back up, at least in Florida anyway, and we're at this 50% capacity type thing, a lot of festivals, like all the festivals in Florida decided they were going to do virtual. And me and Adam really tried to think, should we pushed it back. We kept pushing it back. And finally we're like, we got to figure, what are we doing? Are we doing it this year? What are we doing? So we would talk to filmmakers, and some of them were saying we're cooped in our house. We haven't talked to people. We really miss, the joy of coming together. You should do this. And so, okay, but I'm a very practical person, so it would break my heart if, someone caught COVID, let alone died from it from something I did. So I had to say, if I'm gonna do this, all right, I got to be really serious about this. Like I gotta make sure what I don't know, I learn real quick. And if I don't know, get the right team to make sure we're good. So once I talked it out with Adam and said, I am prepared to do my due diligence of doing this as safe as possible. Let's do this because people are hurting, and I want to do something great for them, have an event for them. It can be simple, but I want this event for them. And so we talked with the venue about keeping it at that 50%, honoring it. We talked about all the logistics of the temperature check, how they're going to keep it clean, how we can make sure they wear masks, yada, 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 right? Like we had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm researching, going on the website, CDC, all these things, watching CNN, having the barometer that tells you how many COVID cases, like I was in it. Like I jokingly wanted to get my degree in it. I talked to people in the community that had that medical background and have been COVID compliance officers. I mean, I did it. Me and Adam were
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Okay. So, but then I would hear, that's very selfish. You're going to kill people. Why are you doing this? The greed. I mean, like so much hate on the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Like just as many happy people saying, "Yes, I'm gonna do it. I promise I'll wear my mask. Let's go. Let's do this." I had so many people saying, "You're selfish. It is wrong, and you're a problem. You're part of the problem.
Mm.
You're a part of the problem. We need to be
Right.
staying at home. You're part of the
Right.
problem." And so I had to, at first it was very shocking and hurtful because when I was like, and at first I understood, I was like, oh, but we're gonna do these things, and I've had meetings, and we're gonna do this, and I'm very transparent about, we're gonna have the mask, we're gonna do the temperature checks, we're gonna separate everybody, we're gonna, even with the elevators, we made sure that only so many people can go in that,
Mm-hmm.
like we're gonna do things. I created a little flyer in my band, I mean in my program, to show all the tips, and like I explained it, and they still came with, I'm selfish, you know, this is wrong. And almost it felt like, are you trying to wish this hate on me? Are you trying to wish
Yeah.
for it to fail? Do you want people to get sick? So it just, so anyways, so I was dealing with that. And at first there was initial shock of, wow, damn if I do, damn if I don't.
Right.
But I had to learn what's important to you, and what mattered, and I had to listen to genuine voices, and the genuine voices were saying, we support you, let's do this. And
Right.
so I kept going, even though there were days I doubted, there were days that I had to pray because I would be sick to my stomach. If I ever had found out that, COVID case and this person died from it, oh my goodness, I probably
Right.
would have shut down. Well, and just, I really would have. I would have been like, this is my last year. We're not doing this because I can't do that. That would just hurt my soul. So going back and forth and feeling very ill and feeling, very just conflicted. And even on D-Day, I had, mosh volunteers, the venues volunteers, helping me enforce. And even I had like a COVID compliance person, there on site. So if I had questions or if she saw activity, she can whisper to me and be like, this ain't
Mm-hmm.
right. So I had that. I still made it my, like me,
Yeah.
Monique. I was the one checking the temperatures. I was the one telling people, you need to put your mask on. I was the one making sure y'all need to separate, or we can't do that, or can we please sanitize? Can we do these things? I literally took it upon myself to make sure that as much as I could, I was
Enforcing the
treating that
rules.
as
Yeah.
serious as the award show or putting on the films, having the band, like all these things, having it on the rooftop so that way people could gather, but they got that fresh air, like all these things that I really took seriously. And I will admit it gave me very high anxiety during that period. On top of I
Can
had,
imagine.
personal
Yeah.
things going on, caretaking and all that. So I had that too on top of, plus I have a normal 9 to 5, like all these things. It was just a very high anxiety time. But again, people go through stuff. So I'm not the only person who has behind the scenes things going on. So I just tried to make sure that whatever I was feeling, and that was the first time that I really had to lean into that. I've practiced it, but I really had to put it into play of whatever you're feeling, still do the thing, and don't let that feeling keep you from doing it. Even if you feel it and you're shaking in your boots while you're talking to people, you still keep talking to people. You still keep doing the thing. And once it's done, your anxiety eases because you did it. You showed your anxiety that you can overcome it. So there are a lot of times that I am probably, what is it, high functioning
Mm-hmm.
anxiety kind of a person. Like people like, dang, you just look like you're having a ball and they don't even know. I literally just came from out the corner crying and then wipe my
I,
tears and like, and go, like I literally just how to compartmentalize. That's what saved me and
mm-hmm.
saved my soul so many times when I had to just do the thing. Even when I'm battling imposter syndrome, or like I
Mm.
said, battling some kind of anxiety, or just I'm an introvert at heart. I'm just married to a very strong extrovert that's like will push me in the deep end with floaties kind of a person. So dealing with too many people, like all these
Mm-hmm.
things, I knew how to just compartmentalize that until I got out of earshot, face shot, area shot of anybody, and was
Mm-hmm.
able to process. And that's why my alone time is so vital. And I fight for that because I can cry it out,
Mm-hmm.
overthink it out, podcast it out, music it out, woo-saw it out, massage it out, whatever that self-care looks like, bath time it out, just whatever I needed to just ease that thing that was in me while I was doing the thing. And that helped me also come to come to play and come to do what I needed to do with less of that feeling in my gut. So it
Mm-hmm.
was like, you still got to do the thing. Don't let it stop you. But also, when you get a chance to breathe, take care of that thing because there's something wrong. Like, go see a
Mm-hmm.
doctor, whatever, do what you got
Right.
to do. So I was always good about that. And then, even like when I do my festivals, I take a certain amount of months off a
Right.
year for that, not from work.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
can't do that. But I take time off and I don't think about the festival. I might come out and support people events, but I am making sure that all the things that I didn't get to do because I was trying to, how when we get in a zone
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have time for that right now. I got to do this. I got to do that. Going to, god kids and nieces and
Right.
nephews
The
and
personal stuff, that the
baby
personal
stuff.
stuff that
Yeah.
we, yeah.
And, yeah, all that. Yeah. Just
Mm-hmm.
taking the time for that. I got to fix my house. Like all those things. I did that. And that made me a happier human. But I still battle with introvert issues. And I think the pandemic kind of messed me up a little bit with that.
I
And I
know.
still deal with the anxiety a little bit. But I still come out. I still do the thing. And that to me is a victory. It's the little
Mm-hmm.
things. Like, you got to
Mm-hmm.
show up. If you don't show up, then you let your anxiety eat
90% of
you.
the time is showing up. The 10% is the extra of like I look at it, the 10% is the awards and the fancy, and it's the 10% that we have to come out and support and promote, and like that's the 10% because it's all flash. It's just so much energy. It's and that could be in any business, any line of work, anything that you do. The 90% is you showing up for yourself every single day. The 90% is showing up for the things that you want, your health, that's a part of showing up for it. We don't look at health as a requirement or as part of a need in our life or as part of our happiness and joy and success. But if you're not healthy, you're not taking yourself, again, personal speaking experience here, I get to validate that for somebody who did not think that at all once a bit, and you know that version. So that version almost killed herself 2 years ago. That version decided that that health was not required for that success. I wanted to ask. There was a thought that kept coming up during that process. I think I found my challenges have been. I say like my challenges have just been my emotional challenges. Like even though I faced literally a war and like faced a human tragedy at a capacity that I can't comprehend or even in there, my challenges have just been feeling challenges. So my last couple years have been that's been my like and I don't mean to minimize myself or my emotions or any of that, but it again, you've gone through that and having those moments, and we look at it and we're humbled by the perspective of others who really are just dealing with 10 times more than are feeling. But did your knowledge, your truth, like your truth, your know within you through those moments, did you find power and strength in the this was bigger than you, like your life, your existence, your purpose on this earth, your service in what you're doing, even through the catastrophe of or the tragedy of it, that the purpose was greater than the feeling, the purpose was greater than the moment, that this was bigger than you and yourself. I look at when we're in those feelings, the self-absorption, right? Like we're just so in our tantrum moment. And again, this is nothing to take away from what we're feeling, but to kind of give it perspective as to, because I think I find so much strength in knowing and that reminder of fighting and battling, and I've become so much more grounded now that I've connected more back to my faith and connected more to where I need to be in that structure, right?
Mhm.
But that knowledge, that really honest knowledge that it's bigger than us, like what we do and how we do it is bigger than us, and the purpose that we have here really doesn't matter what you do as long as you do it to the best. Now, hopefully you're not going out and doing terrible things to your best ability. We want you to do great things to your best ability. So please don't think I'm vouching for I'm always vouching for greatness, not the destruction part. Okay, guys, I'm on the greatness part. So if you're on the destruction side, try to come on our side. It's really good. But how do did you find did you have that thought through your head? Did you have that moment of like, this is bigger than you, Monique? This is, like, I know you're feeling where you're at and these moments, like, and were you there? Because like I said, I know I have those moments, and it's not me, right? Like it can't be me. It can't be, because I'm right now in such shambles. Right now in my reality, I'm in such disarray and confusion as to where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be going. But then there's that innate knowledge and truth that it's something bigger than you. Because like I know you're meant for greatness and whatever it is, but that structure of that faith, did that get you through a lot of that in that? Did you have those voices or that moment come through?
So faith is what gets me through in the midst of. So when I'm in the midst of, like when I'm doing the thing, I'm just trying to remain cool, remain calm, and just kind of do what I need to do, like problem solve. I'm in problem solve mode. I'm a fixer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, so that's a part of who I am. I'm a fixer, I'm a peacekeeper. And those are in my DNA. So I'm in fixer mode. The more I heard things, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna figure out how to solve it. So it's like I needed to hear these things. And so that's where my mode was. But then that's why I also take the time off on the back end to breathe after it, so that way I can reflect on it. And it's in those moments of seeing what went right, what went wrong, and seeing the result and hearing the feedback of how people felt this thing from my thing. When they came to the festival, they left changed for whatever reason, or they felt something for whatever reason, or they connected with someone. Then those hearing those genuine compliments is what made me realize that this is a bigger purpose. And then also, my husband is very good, and I have family around me that's very good with like also saying, I'm proud of you. I see what you're doing. And this is great. And this is great for you. This is great for your city. This is great for your film community. And so having that pride, having, our family really be happy for us and support us, it kind of led me to feel the purpose. But in the midst of no, in the midst
Mm-hmm.
of it's a very humbling experience. And I think my keep going is because the fixer in me says when I can, and if I start something, I have to really try and finish it. If I
Mm-hmm.
can't, it's a really good reason, and it needs to hurt my soul when I had to like quit something. But if there was a legit reason, then I did my due diligence of pros and cons. Once it was you gotta quit this thing, then I'm okay
Are you
with
getting
it.
better at that, at setting that boundary? Are you getting better at setting that boundary where you're able to say no? Because again, you say I know our personalities, we solve problems. I'm also one that might cause some of the problems, but I'll solve them. But you're really much a
Right. I'm
peacemaker,
that way
right?
too.
Yeah, right. But like we know why we're doing it, okay? So, but are you finding that you're able to set the boundaries a bit better nowadays with what you're doing and where you're going, and being able to say no to some of these things or even um breaking your word to others for the sake of yourself, right? And not feeling, because that's a hard thing for, especially for me. Like if I'm easy to break my word to myself, but to others I'm like, but I said I would do it no matter the cost to me. Are you finding it easier to make those boundaries now, where like you just said, you've given it your all, you're doing, and now you have to face and say no?
Yeah, I had a situation. I had a loved one pass away that I really, really, they're important to me. And when I really reflected on that and
Mm-hmm.
realized, life is short, and everything you do, whether it's spend time with your parents, or you spend time with your friends, or you're doing the thing, or you're at work, or you're, all these different things, none of them are greater than each other. Like no event is like the best event. Like this is it. Like you doing this is trumping all the other things you do. They're all equal in moving parts. And so what I learned from it was, there's only so much of you to go around. So, no one can make you happy but you. And so and I realized in that time I was such a people pleaser. And I still battle with that a little bit, but like my thing now is what makes me happy, what makes my soul happy. And if this makes my soul happy, I will continue to do it. So I really think deeply about what I'm doing now, and I'm very intentional with my yeses.
Mm-hmm.
So I have boundaries. I'm still working that out a little bit better, but I have scaled back a lot. But I am grateful for it because it made room for me to give a little bit more of that over 100% in another area. So I
Mm-hmm.
realize it is about the quality, not the quantity. Others might disagree, but I was listening to a podcast, and her name is Amber, and she was on Glee. Um, um, Gosh, I can't think of her name right now because I'm not a big, huge Glee fan, but I just always listen to the music of it. I never really
Yeah, I've
watched the
never
show.
seen the
But
show, so.
yeah, but bottom line, she was saying like, I pick projects that speak to my soul. And she used to feel like I have to do so many, I have to do so many. And she realized, no, it's about the body of work. It's
It's
about what you're doing. So if I have fewer on my resume than this actress over here, but my body of work is impeccable because I'm proud of the project, they were great projects to be on, and so forth and the third, that I'm fulfilled. And so what I took from that is I don't have to say yes to everything. I just have to make sure that when I say yes to the thing, it's something that was worth my yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and not that I'm caring about my body of work, and I hope that doesn't kill me with people in the community. Like I'm not a hobbyist. I do take it seriously. I really do take this stuff seriously. But what I'm saying is, for me, I have one foot in corporate and I have one foot in the arts, and I love it that way. And both power me. And I've accepted that both power me and
Mm-hmm.
both make me better. I've learned my organizational skills from the corporate side has helped me uh, fuel the creative side of me in a very high focused, structural way that not every artist has that ability to do. And then in my creative side, I'm able to think outside the box in my corporate world and bring things to the table that made them think, where'd you, what? Where'd
Mm-hmm.
you come up with that? That's really creative. That's innovative. And so I use both to fuel. But I feel I am very proud of my resume of what I do, but I don't try to compare my track to someone
Mm-mm.
else's. Like, how come they're doing all this and I've just done this and this? I'm proud of this and this, so I'm not concerned about this person doing all these things. So I've learned to stay in my lane, and
Mm-hmm.
once I've learned that I need to, because this particular industry that we're in, film, art, um, because it's such, you have to be perfect, you're constantly like tweaking that sound. You want it
Mm-hmm.
perfect. You want perfect. You want this perfect. And so it's such a nitpicking by nature, that it's a part of the DNA now to just nitpick something or judge. And it's not even
Especially because it's
in a
subjective.
mean way.
Right. And art is
Natural.
so
Yeah.
subjective that like you can nitpick to any particular level you want because it's your personal perspective of what you're feeling and what you're doing. As an artist on the other end, for us to nitpick ourselves, that's a lot of self-sabotage that we do versus looking at it going, I'm good with what I did and where I'm at, and congratulations to hitting all this, and congratulations to the awards and Oscars. Like that's great for you. Like I'm one day maybe, if that's like, and I'm the person again going
Yeah.
like, I want that, like give me my O's, give me my, like give it to me. However, I know what I'm good at. I know what I want. I know what fuels my soul, what keeps me to where I am and my structure solid, and that, but that faith in yourself also comes from that support system. I wanted to ask you, what do you say to somebody who doesn't have that? Because you are very fortunate. You and I are both very fortunate for the support system that we have, right? And people just supporting us in the way they do and guiding us. And when we need that talk through or somebody that we can reach out to, and not to say that we haven't really worked hard to build those partnerships, because we've put in our foot and we've worked hard to build that. But what do you tell for somebody who's literally doesn't have anyone, and they're both maybe in your position of being in the corporate world or the art world or just in one or the other, and maybe are dabbling and trying to find something, but are just really genuinely on that verge of, I don't know and I have nothing, no one, and to be in there? How do we tell them? What do you say to them to keep them? Is there something you could tell them?
So another thing that I'm an only child. So I know what it's like to be alone. I was born alone, kind of a thing. But like but what I'm saying is, so I'm very I don't I love when a tribe loves on me and supports me and fills my ear with the goodness of affirmations that I'm missing and needing and craving at that moment. But I also learn to be my own best friend and
Hmm.
to and like, so if you're a faith believer, pray. If you're not a faith believer, and you got the funds to do therapy. If you don't have that, I go down podcast rabbit holes. That's why I love doing
Yup.
things like this, because I see the value in podcasts. I also will read books on the topics. My thing is, there's no excuse to find resources to build you up and give you information on how to take care of yourself and get yourself to a healthier space, and especially with the internet. Now, I'm not saying go on social media, put a pic, and if you get 20,000 likes, no. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong. Likes are helpful because it could be monetary, it could be advertising. There's beauty in social media, but there's also a constant need for validation. So don't, when I say go on the internet, I mean like go on YouTube and look at great podcasts, look up different like articles from doctors, like really just enamor yourself with the research. And I feel honestly like when you fill your soul with information on, what you're going through, and it's almost like they can name what you're going through. It's almost like when you can name the issue, you can know how to treat it. So do the research of figuring out
Mm-hmm.
what box are you in? Why is there this sadness around you? What is it? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is it what? Grief, whatever. Once you're able to label it, you're able to then treat it. And I always say when you don't know how to treat it because you're still in the research mode, do the little things. It's called the little things that make you happy. If it's like, I remember when I used to have to caretake and go to appointments. And while I'm waiting to let my person get treated, I would go to the local coffee shop, and I knew my order. I knew they would make it quickly. And for 15 minutes, I could just drink that little tea, look out the window, and look at people and not think. And that was and it's and I needed my brain to shut off because my mind was on, I got to go back to work and do this thing. I got the festival things I got to do. I got to make sure my person gets back home. I
Mm-hmm.
got to make sure that I do this. Did my husband do this today? Am I supposed to go to my nephew's soccer game? Like all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just needed a moment to just quiet the mind. And so when I couldn't figure out what was going on with me, I would always have my list of what would make me happy, little things. It could be lighting a candle. Like when I go to work, I set the tone. I have my lights low. I have my candle. I have jazz music or some kind of soft music in the background, and I'm ready to rock and roll. And I can knock that day out like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's. So I have to find really intentionally know what are those little things that make me happy. And they might sound shallow, but you keep a list of it because sometimes when you don't have time to you don't have an hour to listen to a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes was all I had to get myself together. And that coffee shop allowed me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't have, all week, all month. Sometimes all you have is a minute. If it's get you some lavender and go, you got to remember these, whatever you got to do, you just got to really know what makes you happy. Be in tune with the little things. And little things aren't shallow things, especially if they change your mood and lift your spirit. So if you're the type of person you have to do some, little online shopping to get your life, as long as that's not
A detriment to
you're
your
a
need of
detriment. Like,
this.
don't
Yeah.
let your account, yeah, don't
Right.
create a
Go.
new issue now. Like, now
Listen.
you're in debt. Yeah, don't let it be a detriment. You're absolutely right. Don't let it be a detriment. But if it's
So.
therapeutic and not a detriment in a total different way, then go for it. And those are the little things that got me by. And like, honestly, the only other thing, and then I'll be quiet on
Oh
that,
no.
is uh, just silence. Like really being silent or being okay with doing things alone. Because if I
Like go
did
to the
coffee with a
movies
friend,
alone. Go coffee alone.
yeah,
Go sit in the park alone.
yeah,
It's go
like
have
there,
lunch alone. Like it's okay to
it
be
is okay.
alone and
Take
to
a trip
experience.
alone.
Right, to like learn to fall in. I was gonna point literally to what you're saying is in there. This is an added to mine too, and then we'll ask another thing. But excuse me, dying over here. But I learned that they teach us time is money, money is time, and the value of it is like equivalent. At least that's what I'm in my perception is how I see it. Time is money, money is time. It's an equal sign, right? What's the most common denominator? I make the time, I make the money. However, here's the difference between it. Time, we look at it as an infinite thing. It's like we have years and years of time. But money, money, we can, well, both of it, we can look at it. But in reality, we have 24 hours and if it's equal, if we have $24. And that doesn't occur interest. That doesn't roll over. You don't know if you're going to get that 24 hours of that $24 the next day. If you're blessed enough to wake up and have that breath to come into your breath is your bank account. That's what it is. And if that breath comes in and gives you that $24 and that deposit's there, what are you going to do with it? And creating those boundaries and creating this ability to maintain this structure of your being that goes, you know what, every day I get $24. Every day, how am I going to spend these? If I spend my $3 spending 3 hours talking to people or doing this, how much is that draining me in fees? Because I have to pay a cost to that. Like, we don't look at that. We have to pay a cost in replenishing our energy and replenishing our thoughts and replenishing our whole being just because we decide that we're going to put it out there. And so learning to fall in love with yourself is not narcissistic if you're not going out there and doing things that are that, but falling in love with yourself and who you are. I have this thing where I'm obsessed with my own self in a way that I want to learn all the ways I function. Like, how do I work? And why is my strings a little bit too tight here? Or why is the springs a little too bouncy over here? Or why does like the fuel, the way I'm running it right now, like only work this when I'm on this level, and on this one I ain't got none of it? What is going on? And so being in love with yourself, falling in love with yourself and studying yourself, you can only attain these boundaries and these pieces when you become honest with what you're doing and where you're spending your time. And like Monique said, there is no excuse now in our time and age, especially in America and where we're at, for us to use our own inability to look at our own truth and say that we're responsible and accountable for our own successes, happiness, wealth, and everything else. And we just want to blame everyone else because it's not given to us like this. It takes time. Just like going to the doctor, just like going through all these things. And if there's one thing that we've learned through life is it takes time. Like, I don't know how it takes time. So give yourself the time that you're seeking from everyone else. Give yourself the desires, the goals, as she said, all these little things that you're seeking from everyone else. You want to go to coffee? Go have a coffee. You want to go have lunch? Go have lunch. You want to go sit in a park. You want to, why do you need to, be validated by someone else? I think one of the things,
I would drive and listen to music. I would drive and listen to music
for hours. Me too, for hours. I would go down the town, over the bridges. I love our bridges. We get on the bridge and drive 4 or 5 of those bridges, even though I had a fear of heights. That's how I got over it. Driving over those bridges, driving over them with music and blaring and screaming and having my moments and just coming back in and going, that was great. I feel good. Like, we need ourselves as human beings because we encourage as a society ourselves to thrive. Like, we genuinely need each other because how we connect and how we fuel the soul. Like, without each other, we are nothing. However, without yourself, you can't be anything. And with yourself, you are everything to everyone else. And so learn who you are and where you're going and what you want to do. And we're leaving you off with that great conversation on that. Now, let's get into some of the business stuff because this has been great, Monique, by the way. We could be going on this for 3 hours. I love this. So tell me what you have coming up next. What can our community expect? And what are your plans for us? What's a special event that we have coming up?
Sure. What I have next, LOL Jack's Film Festival. We're in our 8th year. So I'm super excited about that. Again, that comedy festival, we have music, we have filmmakers, and we have comedians. And of course, we have local vendors, including yours. That's going to be a part of it as well. So on August 3rd, we're at WJCT Studios. We will have our music component, we'll have our comedians and films. And on Sunday, we will have films, more comedians, and we'll have our awards show. And it's all at WJCT Studio, loljacks.com. You can go and kind of learn more about us, get more details about the event, buy the tickets, and just, hopefully get inspired to maybe create and be a part of it in a different way next year. And then we have the 48 coming up, Jacksonville 48-hour film project. The last weekend in September is when the 48 hours of creating a film will go down. And then, of course, the screenings will be at WJCT again in October. But yeah, that filming weekend is going to be the last weekend of September. So registration is open, and you can go to 48hourfilms.com / Jacksonville and register your team. You can always come out to, we have a meet and greet August 18th at the Jesse down in downtown on Adams Street. You can come. We'll have last year's winner speak and kind of give some tips on how to do a successful 48. But you can also hopefully meet some people and build a team. So that's all I got going, because after all that, I'm going on my break.
She taking her months off, y'all. She doing what she said she was gonna do. She's holding
time.
herself. Listen, she's holding herself accountable, holding her word to herself. And as I always say, you guys know when I speak about the word, I mean the word, not the words we speak and we don't understand and we just mumble. Just remember that they have power, and everything that you say to yourself is infused with the power. So make sure it's healing, it's powerful for your dreams and anything you want to do. And again, those are your prayers. We don't think of them that way. We don't think about what we're doing, but everything we say is one way or another manifestation of our own inner being. So please be mindful with your words and go check out and follow Monique. Follow Monique. Follow Monique Madrid, Adam Madrid. Follow the LOL Film Festival. Follow 48-hour film project. 48-hour film project. Goodness, my words. And then last but not least, follow us in all the ways. If you haven't liked, subscribed, and done all of your sharing and all that stuff, what are you waiting for? Please do so. The subscribe button and notification button is right there somewhere in these places, so hit them and like them for us. And on top of that, if we mentioned a lot of books and podcasts in a way that here you can listen to, there is on our website at a website, the link's there. I'll just add it because I don't have the words right now, but in there we have books for change, and there's a lot of free resources. We've already listed for you about 30 to 40 right now, where you can really go and take that journey for yourself and listening and not finding an excuse to not change your life today and change the narrative and redefine it for what you want, because you are responsible for the life you have. You are accountable for it. And if you are fortunate enough to have people around you who are honest with you and tell you and do that, respect that, get humbled, and take it upon yourself to win. And if you don't agree with them, prove them wrong and win either way. Either way, you win. Like, that's your job on this earth. Serve and win for the betterment of all of us. Much love to you. I thank you all for all of your support. Again, remember, our podcast is live in anywhere you, Apple, Spotify, all the other places that you can listen to it. And please share. Also, leave us comments. Tell us how you think we did this time. And if you want to have your story shared, please reach out to me at info.phi. Let me make sure I said that. info.phinc-.org. And I probably said it right, so look at the thing that I made in there. But email us your story, tell us your story, because I am wanting to share humans who have fought and beat this life in a way that has made them change their perspective to realize that honestly the life is not the negative part, it's what we make it of. And how do we do that? Let's change the perspective, let's change the narrative, let's advocate for the human being, and let's really show compassion and love to this world. Until next time, my friends and family, I will see you later.